There was a time when the kitchen wasn't just a place to cook, it was the beating heart of the home. In African American households, recipes weren't written down on paper. They were passed from hand to hand, from mother to daughter, from grandfather to grandson. They say soul food is just fried chicken and mac and cheese, but what they don't tell you is that the real soul food was cooked in kitchens where recipes weren't written down. They were whispered, passed from calloused hands to eager hearts. These weren't just meals. They were survival guides, love letters, and lessons all stirred into one pot. Your great-grandmother knew things that didn't come from cookbooks. She knew which root could settle a stomach, how to make a ham bone feed 8 people, and why certain dishes had to be made with intention, not just ingredients. But somewhere between moving north and moving fast, we stopped watching. We stopped learning. And now, those recipes are fading like old photographs left in the sun. Maya Angelou said it best. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. And your grandmother was a great tree. Her kitchen was the root system that fed the whole family. It lived in the way flour felt between her fingers, in the sound of grease popping just right, in the rhythm of her wooden spoon against that old cast-iron pot that had seasoned more than food. It had seasoned generations. But here's what breaks my heart. Those hands that could turn neck bones into Sunday dinner, that could make biscuits rise without measuring a thing, that could stretch $1 into a feast. Those hands are getting fewer. And with every elder we lose recipes that Google will never know, techniques that took decades to perfect, stories that seasoned every single dish. If you stay with me, I'll share 25 recipes that your grandparents swore by, recipes that built strong backs and stronger families, recipes that are disappearing faster than we can save them. This is 25 African American recipes your grandparents knew by heart, and we're losing them one kitchen at a time. Let's remember them together. Let's bring them home. 1. Smothered pork chops. This wasn't just dinner. This was survival made tender. Cheap pork chops, tough as shoe leather, transformed into something that melted in your mouth. The secret was time and patience. Brown the chops first, build that flavor in the pan. Then smother them in gravy, low and slow. During the Great Depression, when families moved north for factory work, smothered pork chops followed. Every boarding house kitchen knew this recipe. In Detroit's Black Bottom neighborhood, 1943, women cooked these after 12-hour shifts at Willow Run. The gravy stretched 1 chop into dinner for 4. The onions went in first, sweating until they turned golden. Then flour, stirring constant so it wouldn't burn. Stock came next, whisking smooth. Those chops went back in, nestled deep in that brown gravy. Covered tight, they simmered until fork tender. That's when magic happened. The gravy wasn't just sauce. It was liquid gold that turned rice into a feast. It soaked into mashed potatoes like love itself. When you cut into that chop, it fell apart. No knife needed. Just a fork and the knowledge that Mama's hands made this possible. 2. Collard greens with smoked turkey necks. Before there were vitamins in bottles, there were collard greens. Iron, calcium, and strength cooked into every leaf. This was medicine disguised as vegetables. The leaves came from gardens behind shotgun houses. Big, tough leaves that took time and understanding to make tender. No shortcuts allowed here. During slavery, these greens kept folks alive. Masters ate the pork, slaves got the scraps. But those scraps made greens sing with flavor. Every leaf got washed 3 times. Sand and grit had to go. Then the stems, cut away with a sharp knife. Only the tender parts remained. The turkey necks went in first, simmering until the meat fell off. That smoky broth became the foundation. Everything else built on that. In 1955, when Rosa Parks refused to move, kitchens across Montgomery cooked greens, preparing for the long fight ahead. Strength in every spoonful. The greens went in raw, piled high in the pot. They'd cook down to nothing, concentrating all that flavor. Time was the secret ingredient. Pot liquor was liquid gold. Folks drank it straight, used it for cornbread. Nothing went to waste in Mama's kitchen. Everything had purpose. 3. Sweet potato pie. This wasn't pumpkin pie's poor cousin. This was royalty. Sweet potatoes baked until caramelized, then transformed into dessert that could heal hearts. The sweet potatoes never saw water. Always baked in their skins, concentrating every bit of sweetness. That's how grandmamas did it right. During Reconstruction, when sugar was precious, sweet potatoes provided natural sweetness. Nature's candy, growing right in the backyard garden behind every cabin. The spices told stories. Cinnamon from traders, nutmeg from sailors. Each family guarded their blend like treasure. Recipes passed down through whispered instructions. In 1920s Harlem, sweet potato pie graced tables at rent parties. Dancing upstairs, pie downstairs, sweetness in hard times, community in every slice. The filling went smooth as silk, hand-mashed, never with machines. Grandmama's hands knew exactly how much texture to leave. Perfect imperfection. Eggs went in one at a time, incorporating slowly. Butter melted warm, not hot. Every step deliberate, every ingredient respected. This was sacred cooking. That first bite transported you home. Sweet, creamy, spiced just right. It tasted like Sunday dinner, family gathered, love served on china plates. 4. Fried catfish with hush puppies. Friday night meant fish. Not because of religion, but because catfish was cheap. Poor man's protein turned into rich man's feast. Magic happened in hot oil. The fish came from muddy rivers, bottom feeders that knew how to survive, just like the folks who caught them. Resilience in every fillet. During Jim Crow, when black folks couldn't eat at white restaurants, fish fries happened in backyards, community gatherings over sizzling skillets. Joy despite everything. Buttermilk was the secret. Soak that fish overnight, tenderizing and removing any muddy taste. Next day, magic began with seasoned cornmeal. The oil had to sing. Not bubbling angry, not silent and cool. Right in between, where cornmeal danced. Temperature was everything in this game. Hush puppies got their name from quieting dogs. Hush, puppy. While dropping cornmeal balls into oil, dogs went quiet, people got happy. Simple math. In 1960s Mississippi during Freedom Summer, fish fries fed volunteers. Food as resistance. Community as strength. Every crispy bite was defiance against hatred. That crunch when you bit down. Golden cornmeal shattering, revealing tender white fish inside. Perfection achieved with cornmeal, oil, and ancestral knowledge. 5. Hoppin' John, black-eyed peas, and rice. January 1st without Hoppin' John was bad luck. Black-eyed peas for coins, rice for prosperity. Superstition mixed with nutrition. Insurance for the coming year. The tradition traveled from West Africa, where black-eyed peas meant good fortune. Enslaved people kept the custom alive. Hope disguised as dinner. During the Civil War, Union troops ignored black-eyed peas, calling them animal feed. Confederate families survived on what soldiers wouldn't touch. Hidden blessings. The peas cooked slowly, releasing their starchy goodness into the pot. Rice joined later, absorbing every drop of flavor. Perfect marriage of ingredients. Ham hocks provided the soul. Salty, smoky meat that transformed simple beans into something sublime. One bone fed the whole family. Stretch and flavor combined. New Year's 1863, Emancipation Proclamation took effect. Freed families cooked Hoppin' John with tears of joy. Freedom tasted like black-eyed peas and hope. Children learned early. Eat your peas, make your money. The more you ate, the richer you'd be. Encouraging good nutrition through ancient wisdom. That first spoonful of the year carried weight. History, hope, and hunger all mixed together. Simple ingredients, complex meanings. Survival in every grain. 6. Hoecakes, cornmeal pancakes. Before fancy griddles, there were hoe blades. Heated over open fires, they cooked cornmeal cakes for folks working dawn to dusk. Simple tools, filling food. Enslaved people made these in the fields. Cornmeal, water, salt, cooked on whatever flat surface they could find. Sustenance stolen from exhaustion, nourishment from nothing. The batter was thick, sturdy enough to hold together on hot metal. Not fluffy pancakes, but dense cakes that filled empty stomachs. Function over fancy. During sharecropping days, Hoecakes traveled to the fields in cloth bundles. Still warm at lunch, they provided energy for backbreaking work. Fuel for survival. Cornmeal was yellow gold in poor kitchens. Cheaper than wheat flour, it grew where other crops failed. Resilient grain for resilient people. The cooking surface had to be perfect. Too hot burned the outside, left raw centers. Too cool made soggy cakes. Experience taught the right temperature. In 1930s Alabama, Hoecakes filled children's bellies before school. Plain, maybe with a touch of molasses. Simple breakfast that powered growing bodies. Each cake was hand-formed, pressed flat with calloused palms. No two exactly alike. Imperfect perfection, made with love and necessity. Survival never looked so humble. 7. Ham hocks and lima beans. This was poor folks' luxury. Ham hocks, the tough joint between pig's foot and leg, cheap cuts that rich folks ignored, but poor cooks knew secrets. Lima beans were called butter beans down south. Creamy, substantial, they absorbed flavor like sponges. Perfect partners for smoky ham hocks. Economics and taste aligned. During the Depression, one ham hock fed a family of 8. The bones gave up their essence, flavoring pot after pot. Nothing wasted, everything sacred. The hocks went in first, simmering for hours. Tough connective tissue melted into gelatin, creating rich broth. Patience was the secret ingredient nobody could buy. Lima beans joined later, still firm and proud. They'd cook down slowly, becoming creamy but holding their shape. Dignity maintained despite humble origins. In 1950s Chicago, Southern migrants brought this recipe north. Ham hocks and lima beans reminded them of home, comfort food in a cold city. The pot liquor was precious as gold. Some drank it straight, others soaked cornbread. Liquid nutrition that warmed from the inside out. Medicine disguised as soup. When beans split open, releasing their creamy centers, the dish was done. Fork-tender ham, silky beans, soul-warming broth. Simple ingredients, complex satisfaction achieved. 8. Gullah red rice. This wasn't Spanish rice or jambalaya. This was pure Gullah, straight from the Sea Islands. West African wisdom cooked in Carolina rice. History in every grain. The rice came from Africa, carried in enslaved women's hair, seeds of survival, planted in strange soil. Hope growing in hostile ground. Culture preserved through cuisine. Tomatoes turned the rice red, like the clay earth of home. Onions added sweetness, peppers brought heat. Each ingredient told part of the story. During the Civil War, Sea Island families survived on red rice. Union blockades couldn't stop them from eating well. Resilience served in earthenware bowls. The rice was washed until the water ran clear. Every grain separate, perfectly cooked. African techniques preserved through generations. Knowledge passed down through kitchen wisdom. Neck bones or ham hocks provided the foundation. Smoky meat that seasoned every grain. One piece of bone stretched into Sunday dinner. Abundance from scarcity. In 1960s Charleston, red rice graced church suppers. Generations sharing recipes without words. Hands teaching hands. Hearts feeding hearts. Tradition living through taste. That first bite connected you to ancestors. West African grandmothers, South Carolina great-aunts. All present in perfectly seasoned rice. Time collapsed in your mouth. 9. Chicken and dumplings. Sunday dinner meant chicken and dumplings. Whole chicken simmered until tender, creating golden broth. Then came dumplings, dropped like clouds into bubbling liquid. Heaven in a pot. The chicken was never just pieces, always whole birds, necks and all. Every part contributed to the broth. Waste nothing, use everything. Depression-era wisdom in practice. During the 1940s, when rationing meant eggs were precious, dumplings stretched protein. Flour and water became filling additions. Creative cooking during hard times. Survival disguised as comfort. The broth had to be perfect. Rich, golden, seasoned just right. Hours of simmering created liquid gold. This was the foundation everything else built upon. Dumplings were dropped by spoonfuls into bubbling broth. They puffed up like pillows, absorbing chicken flavor. Simple batter became substantial sustenance. Alchemy in the kitchen. In 1955 Montgomery, during bus boycott meetings, church kitchens served chicken and dumplings. Food that stuck to ribs gave strength for the fight. Nourishment for body and cause. The chicken fell off the bone, tender as a mother's touch. Dumplings soaked up every drop of flavor. Perfect marriage of ingredients, blessed by time. Each bowl was a hug from grandmama. Warm, filling, made with love. Comfort food that actually comforted. Sunday dinner that felt like home, tasted like family. 10. Molasses gingerbread. This wasn't cake, it was sustenance. Dense, dark, sweetened with molasses when sugar was luxury. Gingerbread that filled bellies and warmed hearts. Affordable indulgence for working families. Molasses was cheap sweetness, the syrup left after sugar refinement. What rich folks discarded, poor folks transformed. Sweet rebellion in every sticky spoonful, making much from little. During Christmas 1920s, when store-bought treats were dreams, molasses gingerbread appeared on tables. Homemade happiness, spiced with cinnamon and hope. Celebration within means. The batter was thick, substantial. This bread would last days, getting better with time. No delicate cake here, but sturdy sustenance, built to last, like the people. Ginger warmed from the inside, fighting winter chills. Cinnamon added comfort, cloves brought complexity. Each spice carefully measured, nothing wasted. Flavor built layer by layer. In 1930s Tennessee, school lunch pails held squares of gingerbread. Energy for learning, sweetness in hard times. Teachers knew well-fed children learned better. Food as education fuel. The molasses created deep, complex sweetness. Not cloying like white sugar, but rich and satisfying. Grown-up sweetness for families facing grown-up problems. Comfort that understood hardship. Each bite was dense with flavor and history. Molasses connecting to sugar plantations. Spices to trading ships. Global ingredients in local kitchens. World history in homemade bread. 11. Smothered pork chops in brown gravy. This wasn't just dinner. This was alchemy in action. Cheap pork chops, tough as leather boots, transformed into something that melted on your tongue. The secret lived in patience and understanding fire. The chops weren't expensive cuts. They were working-class meat for working-class folks. But Grandmama knew that tough meat just needed time and the right treatment. Love could tenderize anything. During the 1950s, when families stretched every dollar, smothered pork chops fed the whole household. One package of chops became dinner for 6. The gravy did the stretching, turning simple into substantial. Those chops got seasoned first. Salt, pepper, maybe some garlic powder. Then into a hot skillet they went, searing until golden. That browning wasn't just for color. It was building flavor, creating the foundation. The onions came next, sliced thick and cooked until they wept sweet tears. Then flour, stirred constant so it wouldn't catch and burn. The roux had to be perfect, smooth as silk. Stock poured in slowly, whisking to prevent lumps. This wasn't just gravy. This was liquid comfort that would embrace those chops like a warm blanket. Brown and rich, it promised tenderness. Back went the chops, nestled deep in that bubbling gravy. The lid went on tight, heat turned low. Time would work its magic now. Hours passed while tough became tender. When you lifted that fork, the meat surrendered without a fight. No knife needed, just the knowledge that patience had won again. The gravy soaked into rice like love itself, feeding both body and soul. 12. Black-eyed pea fritters. Black-eyed peas weren't just for New Year's luck. They were protein for folks who couldn't afford much protein. But Grandmama knew how to make humble peas sing with flavor. Magic happened in hot oil. The peas were cooked until tender, then mashed with purpose. Not smooth like baby food, but chunky enough to have texture. Every pea told its own story in the mix. During the Depression, these fritters stretched dried peas into filling meals. 1 cup of peas became a dozen fritters. Mathematics of survival, equations solved in cast-iron skillets. Onions went into the mix, diced fine and sweet. They added moisture and flavor, turning simple peas into something special. Seasonings followed, salt and pepper at minimum, sometimes cayenne for heat. An egg bound it all together, creating mixture thick enough to hold its shape. Too wet, and the fritters fell apart. Too dry, and they crumbled. Experience taught the perfect consistency. The oil sang when it was ready, not angry bubbling, but gentle conversation. Hot enough to seal the outside, creating crispy shells around creamy centers. Temperature was everything in this dance. Spoonfuls of mixture dropped into oil, sizzling on contact. They puffed up golden, turning once when the bottom was set. No rushing allowed here. Good things took time. Each fritter emerged crispy and proud, protein disguised as comfort food. Served with rice and greens, they made poor folks feel rich. Simple peas transformed into something sublime. Proof that love was the secret ingredient. 13. Buttermilk chess pie. Chess pie was honesty on a plate. No fancy ingredients, no complicated techniques. Just eggs, sugar, butter, and buttermilk transformed into something that could heal broken hearts. Simple was sacred here. The name came from necessity. Chess pie because it was just pie, nothing fancy. When the cupboard was nearly bare, chess pie appeared. Magic made from pantry staples and kitchen wisdom. During the 1940s, when sugar was rationed, chess pie used what little sweetness families had. Every grain of sugar counted, measured careful as gold dust. Sweetness earned, not wasted. The eggs were the foundation, beaten until they were light and airy. Then sugar, incorporated slow and steady. Butter came next, melted but not hot. Every addition deliberate, every step crucial. Buttermilk was the secret weapon, adding tang that balanced all that sweetness. It created complexity and simplicity, depth where others saw only basic. Cultured milk, cultured flavor. A little cornmeal went in, just enough to give texture. Some folks added vanilla, others lemon zest. But the base recipe stayed true to its humble roots. Honest ingredients, honest pie. Into the pastry shell it went, smooth as silk. The oven did the rest, setting eggs into custard, creating something greater than its parts. Chemistry disguised as cooking. That first bite was revelation. Creamy, tangy, sweet, but not cloying. Chess pie didn't pretend to be fancy, and that's what made it perfect. Truth tasted better than pretense. 14. Salmon patties with white sauce. Canned salmon was democracy in a tin. Rich folks ate fresh fish. Poor folks made magic with canned. Salmon patties proved that good cooking could happen anywhere, with anything. Resourcefulness was its own art form. The salmon came from Alaska, caught by fishermen who never knew where their catch would end up. In southern kitchens, it became Sunday dinner. Geography collapsed in Grandmama's hands. During World War II, when fresh meat was scarce, salmon patties fed families across the country. protein that traveled well, lasted long, and stretched far, survival swimming in small cans. Every bone got picked out careful, fingers feeling for what didn't belong. The salmon was flaked gentle, keeping some texture. Smooth was for baby food, not real cooking. Breadcrumbs went in next, day-old biscuits crumbled fine. Waste nothing, use everything. Then eggs to bind, onions for sweetness, seasonings for depth. Each ingredient earned its place. The mixture had to hold together but stay tender. Too much binding, and they turned tough. Too little, and they fell apart in the pan. Balance lived in experience. Knowledge passed through touch. Hot oil waited in cast-iron skillets, just enough to come halfway up the patties. They sizzled golden brown, turning once when the first side set. Patience rewarded with perfect crust. White sauce was simple elegance. Butter, flour, milk, salt, and pepper. Cooked until smooth and creamy, it dressed up humble salmon like Sunday clothes. Simple made sophisticated. The celebration dishes. Special occasion favorites, 15. Cracklin' cornbread. Regular cornbread was everyday eating. Cracklin' cornbread was celebration. Those little pieces of rendered pork skin turned simple cornbread into something that deserved Sunday's best china. Ordinary became extraordinary. The cracklins weren't just seasoning. They were proof of thrift, evidence that nothing got wasted. Pork skin that others might discard became treasure in knowing hands. Scraps transformed into gold. During church homecomings, cracklin' cornbread graced tables alongside fried chicken and collard greens. It was special enough for company, substantial enough for satisfaction. Food that made occasions memorable. The cornmeal was coarse ground, real cornmeal that tasted like corn. Fine powder from stores couldn't match stone-ground meal that had texture and character. Authentic ingredients for authentic food. Cracklins went into the batter like little gifts, scattered throughout so every bite had surprise. Crispy, salty, rich with rendered fat. They added texture and flavor that regular cornbread couldn't match. The cast-iron skillet went into the oven first, heating until it was smoking hot. When batter hit that pan, it sizzled like bacon, creating crust that was crispy outside, tender inside. Theater in the kitchen. Each wedge came out different depending on where the cracklins landed. Some bites were rich and porky, others mild and corny. Variety within unity. Surprise in every slice. This wasn't bread you ate absent-minded. Cracklin' cornbread demanded attention, rewarded respect. It was food that made you slow down, pay attention, appreciate what you had. Mindful eating before anyone called it that. 16. Neck bone and lima bean. Soup neck bones were poor folks' treasure, hidden wealth in the butcher shop. Those knobby joints looked like nothing special, but they held secrets. Marrow and collagen waited inside, ready to transform simple beans into liquid gold. The bones came from animals that worked hard, just like the people who cooked them. Tough joints that needed time and understanding to give up their goodness. Patience was rewarded with flavor. During harsh winters, neck bone soup warmed kitchens and hearts. One pot fed the whole family, stretching bones and beans into meals that lasted days. Abundance from scarcity, warmth from wisdom. Those bones went into the pot first, browning to build flavor. Then water, enough to cover with room to spare. Long, slow simmering drew out everything good, creating broth rich as butter. Lima beans joined the party later, still firm and proud. They'd cook down gradual, becoming creamy while keeping their shape. Dignity maintained despite humble circumstances. Character in every spoonful. Onions, celery, maybe some carrots added sweetness and depth. Bay leaves contributed mystery. Black pepper brought heat. Each seasoning played its part in the symphony of flavor. Hours passed while tough became tender, simple became sublime. The meat fell off the bones, the beans released their starch, the broth became silk. Time was the secret ingredient nobody could buy. That first spoonful was ceremony. Rich broth, tender meat, creamy beans all coming together. Served with cornbread for sopping, it was a meal that satisfied more than hunger. Soul food for the soul. 17. Fried catfish with hush puppies. Friday night meant fish fry, and catfish was the star of the show. Bottom feeders that knew how to survive, just like the folks who caught and cooked them. Resilience served golden and crispy. Community gathered around hot oil. The catfish came from muddy rivers, swimming in waters that others might avoid. But proper preparation transformed them into delicacies. Knowledge trumped prejudice every time. Wisdom won over assumptions. During the 1960s, church fish fries raised money for civil rights. Crispy catfish funded freedom. Hush puppies supported hope. Every bite was investment in a better future. Food as resistance, cooking as activism. Buttermilk was the secret weapon, soaking those fillets overnight. It tenderized the meat and removed any muddy taste. Cultured milk creating cultured fish, patience improving perfection. The cornmeal coating was seasoned heavy, salt and pepper at minimum. Some cooks added paprika for color, cayenne for heat. The mixture had to stick to wet fish, creating armor of flavor. Oil temperature was critical, hot enough to seal but not so hot it burned. The fish should sizzle when it hit the oil, creating bubbles that meant business. Sound was the best thermometer in experienced hands. Hush puppies cooked alongside the fish, little balls of cornmeal batter that puffed golden. Legend said they were thrown to dogs to hush puppies while the fish cooked. Practical solutions to practical problems. Each piece emerged perfect golden crust shattering to reveal flaky white meat inside. Served with hot sauce and pickles, it was food that brought people together. Community built around shared plates and common joy. 18. Sweet potato pound cake. Pound cake got its name from the original recipe. A pound each of butter, sugar, eggs, and flour. Sweet potato pound cake improved on perfection, adding nature's candy to create something sublime. Innovation built on tradition. Sweet potatoes were America's secret weapon, native plants that grew where other crops failed, indigenous wisdom preserved through Southern cooking, orange gold that sweetened hard times, nature providing for those who paid attention. During the holidays, sweet potato pound cake graced tables from Virginia to Texas. It was special enough for Christmas, humble enough for every day. Food that bridged seasons and celebrations. Versatility in every slice. The sweet potatoes were baked until tender, skins wrinkled and contents caramelized. Then mashed smooth as silk, every lump worked out with patient hands. Perfection required time and attention to detail. Into the pound cake batter they went, adding moisture and natural sweetness. The color turned beautiful orange like sunset captured in cake form. Visual poetry that tasted even better than it looked. The butter had to be perfect temperature, soft enough to cream but not melted. Sugar went in gradual, beaten until light and fluffy. Each egg incorporated separate, building structure with every addition. Low and slow baking was key, giving the cake time to rise and set without browning too fast. The kitchen filled with perfume that promised good things coming. Anticipation built with every minute. That first slice was revelation. Dense but tender, sweet but complex. Sweet potato pound cake didn't need frosting or fancy presentation. It was perfect exactly as it was, proof that simple done right was always best. The preservation methods. Keeping food through the seasons, 19. Smoked ham hocks and cabbage. Before refrigeration, smoking was survival. Ham hocks, smoked until they were deeply flavored and shelf-stable, could last through winter. Paired with fresh cabbage, they created meals that sustained families through lean months. Preservation was protection. The hocks came from hogs butchered in fall, when cool weather made meat safe to preserve. Smokehouses filled with fragrant wood smoke, curing meat for months ahead. planning for tomorrow while working today. During the Depression, smoked ham hocks meant the difference between eating and going hungry. One hock could flavor pot after pot, stretching through multiple meals. Economics of survival, mathematics of making do. The smoking process took days, low heat and steady smoke turning fresh meat into something that could last. Applewood, hickory, oak, each gave its own character. Patience creating preservation, time creating flavor. Cabbage was winter's fresh vegetable, growing when others couldn't. Tough leaves that got sweeter with cold weather, perfect partners for smoky ham hocks. Seasonal wisdom that modern kitchens forgot. Nature providing balance. Into the pot they went together, ham hocks giving up their essence to tough cabbage leaves. Hours of simmering made both better, smoke and sweetness dancing together. Partnership in the pot. The cooking liquid became liquid gold, rich with smoke and vegetables. Some folks drank it straight, others soaked cornbread. Nothing wasted, everything sacred. Resourcefulness was its own religion. That first bite transported you through seasons. Summer's smoking, fall's harvest, winter's warmth, all present on the fork. Time collapsed in flavor, history served in earthenware bowls, memory made edible. 20. Buttermilk, pancakes with cane syrup. Saturday mornings meant pancakes, and buttermilk pancakes were the gold standard. The tang of cultured milk balanced against sweet cane syrup, creating breakfast that could power a day of hard work. Simple ingredients, complex satisfaction. Real buttermilk wasn't the cultured stuff from stores. It was what remained after buttermaking, tangy and thick with character. Waste became treasure. Byproduct became blessing. Nothing discarded that could nourish. During the 1920s, when store-bought syrup was luxury, cane syrup sweetened pancakes across the South. Thick, dark, and complex, it had flavor that corn syrup couldn't match. Local sweetness for local tables. The batter was mixed just until combined, lumps and all. Overmixing created tough pancakes, but gentle handling produced tender perfection. Light touch, heavy flavor. Technique passed through generations of careful hands. The griddle had to be perfect temperature, hot enough to sear, but not so hot it burned. A drop of water should dance and sizzle, then disappear. Sound and sight teaching temperature better than any thermometer. Cane syrup was heated gentle until it poured smooth as silk. The warmth brought out complexity. Molasses notes that paired perfect with tangy pancakes. Temperature enhancing flavor. Heat releasing hidden character. Each pancake was golden perfection. Crispy edges giving way to fluffy centers. The syrup soaked in but didn't make them soggy, sweet balancing tart in perfect harmony. Chemistry disguised as breakfast. This was Saturday morning ceremony. Family gathered around the table before the work week began. Pancakes and syrup and time together, creating memories one bite at a time. Food as foundation for family. 21. Pickled watermelon rind. Nothing went to waste in Grandmama's kitchen, especially not watermelon rind. The white part between red flesh and green skin became pickles that were part condiment, part candy. Transformation through preservation. Treasure from trash. Summer meant watermelon, and watermelon meant rinds that needed using. While others composted them, knowing cooks turned them into delicacies. Vision saw possibility where others saw waste. Creativity born from necessity. During canning season, when every jar mattered for winter survival, watermelon rind pickles filled pantries with bright, sweet preserves. They lasted through cold months, bringing summer's memory to winter tables. Time captured in glass. The rind was peeled careful, green skin and pink flesh removed until only white remained. Then cubed into uniform pieces, each one perfect for picking up flavor. Preparation was meditation, mindful work that paid dividends. The brine was sweet and sour, vinegar balanced with sugar and spiced with cinnamon and cloves. Each family guarded their blend, adjusting ratios until they achieved perfection. Secret formulas passed through whispered recipes. Into glass jars they went, rinds covered with hot brine that would transform them over days and weeks. The waiting was hard, but patience was rewarded with pickles that were worth the time. Good things came to those who waited. The finished pickles were crisp and complex, sweet enough for dessert but tangy enough for condiments. They cut through rich foods, cleansed the palate, and reminded you that summer wasn't really gone. Preservation as resurrection. Each bite was summer lightning, captured sweetness that brightened winter meals. Served alongside ham and biscuits, they added brightness to heavy food, balance in every jar, wisdom in every bite. The comfort foods. Healing and nurturing, 22. Fried chicken gizzards and hearts. Organ meats weren't waste products. They were delicacies for those who knew how to prepare them right. Chicken gizzards and hearts, fried golden and crispy, were treats that connected you to traditions older than memory. Respect for the whole animal, waste of nothing. The gizzards were muscle, tough and chewy until treated with knowledge. Cleaned careful and often pre-cooked to tenderize, they became something special in experienced hands. Difficult ingredients rewarded patient cooks. Time was the secret weapon. During the 1950s, when chicken was Sunday dinner, gizzards and hearts were Saturday treats. The good parts saved for the cook who knew their value. Reward for knowledge, prize for understanding. Excellence hidden in plain sight. Cleaning was crucial, removing any grit or impurities that would ruin the final dish. Gizzards especially needed attention, their job in life making them candidates for careful preparation. Respect for ingredients meant attention to detail. The seasoning was simple but important. Salt, pepper, maybe some garlic powder or paprika. The goal was to enhance, not mask. These were ingredients with character, and character deserved respect. Honest food for honest palates. Into hot oil they went, sizzling and bubbling as moisture met heat. The coating turned golden, creating crispy shells around tender centers. Temperature control was crucial. Too hot and they burned before cooking through. Some folks liked them chewy, others preferred them tender. Cooking time made the difference. Experience taught the balance. Personal preference met traditional technique. Individual taste within cultural wisdom. Each bite was intense chicken flavor, concentrated essence of the bird. Served with hot sauce and cold beer, they were working-class sophistication. Food that didn't apologize for being what it was, proud in its simplicity. 23. Banana pudding with vanilla wafers. Church dinners, family reunions, Sunday suppers. Banana pudding was the dessert that brought people together. Layers of vanilla wafers, fresh bananas, and homemade pudding topped with meringue. Architecture you could eat, engineering delicious. The pudding wasn't from a box. Real pudding started with eggs, milk, sugar, and vanilla, cooked slow until it thickened perfect. Constant stirring prevented lumps, patience prevented burning. Time invested paid flavor dividends. During the 1960s, banana pudding was church supper royalty. Ladies competed with their versions, each one slightly different but all following the same basic principles. Community through competition, excellence through tradition. Vanilla wafers were the foundation, cookies that softened just enough in the pudding but kept their shape. They absorbed flavor while providing texture, perfect marriage of ingredients. Partnership that improved both participants. Fresh bananas were sliced uniform, arranged in layers between wafers and pudding. They added natural sweetness and creamy texture, fruit that made the dessert feel less guilty. Health disguised as indulgence, nutrition hidden in pleasure. The meringue was whipped by hand until it formed peaks, then spread over everything like edible clouds. Into the oven it went, browning golden on top while staying fluffy underneath. Drama for the finale. Time was the final ingredient, letting flavors meld and textures marry. Day-old banana pudding was better than fresh. Patience rewarded with perfection. Delayed gratification creating ultimate satisfaction. Each spoonful was different, depending on your angle of attack. Sometimes more wafers, sometimes more banana. Always exactly what you needed. Variety within consistency. Surprise within comfort. Perfect imperfection served with love. 24. Hot water, cornbread, Johnny cakes. This wasn't baked cornbread. This was fried history. Cornmeal and hot water formed into cakes and cooked in sizzling oil. Simple ingredients, ancient technique. Survival food that tasted like celebration when done right. Primitive cooking. Perfect results. The recipe was minimal. Cornmeal, salt, boiling water. But technique made the difference between success and failure. The water had to be truly boiling, shocking the cornmeal into submission. Temperature was chemistry in action. During slavery, field hands made Johnny cakes on hoe blades over open fires. Quick cooking for folks who couldn't stop working long. Sustenance stolen from exhaustion, energy created from almost nothing. Ingenuity born from necessity. The batter had to be thick enough to hold together but moist enough to cook through. Too dry and they crumbled. Too wet and they fell apart. Experience taught the perfect consistency. Knowledge lived in hands, not books. Into hot oil they went, sizzling immediate contact with liquid heat. The outside sealed crispy while the inside stayed creamy. Textural contrast that made each bite interesting. Simple becoming complex through technique. They cooked fast, turning once when the bottom was set. No time for distraction here, Johnny cakes demanded attention. Respect for the process, focus on the moment. Mindful cooking before anyone called it that. Each cake emerged golden and proud, crispy outside giving way to tender inside. Served hot with butter or molasses, they were comfort food that actually comforted. Honest food for honest hunger. This was cooking stripped to essentials, technique revealed without fancy ingredients to hide behind. Johnny cakes taught you about heat, timing, and respect for simple things. Education disguised as breakfast, wisdom served warm. 25. Blackberry cobbler with lard crust. Wild blackberries were summer's gift. Free fruit for anyone willing to brave the thorns. Blackberry cobbler was how you honored that gift, turning nature's bounty into dessert worthy of Sunday's best table. Respect for seasons, celebration of abundance. The berries came from roadside patches, fence rows, and abandoned fields. Picking was hot, scratchy work that left you purple-stained and satisfied, earning your dessert one berry at a time. Labor that made sweetness sweeter. During the Depression, wild blackberries meant free dessert when store-bought treats were impossible dreams. Nature providing for those who paid attention, abundance hiding in brambles. Seasonal wisdom that modern life forgot. The berries were sugared light, their natural tartness balanced but not overwhelmed. Too much sweetening masked their wild flavor. Too little left them puckeringly sour. Balance was key. Restraint was wisdom. Respect for ingredients meant letting them shine. Lard made the best pie crust, flakier and more tender than anything butter or shortening could achieve. It was practical fat, affordable luxury that created pastry light as clouds. Function and flavor combined in perfect harmony. The crust was rolled thin and draped over bubbling berries, edges pinched to seal in the goodness. Vents cut careful to let steam escape without losing too much juice. Engineering disguised as baking, science served as dessert. Into the oven it went, crust browning while berries bubbled beneath. The kitchen filled with perfume that promised good things coming. Anticipation building with every aromatic minute that passed. That first bite was summer captured, wild sweetness tamed by buttery crust. Served warm with fresh cream if you had it, perfect on its own if you didn't. complete satisfaction, seasonal celebration, memory made edible and sweet.